So moving into my actual presentation for this one, we'll talk about insourcing. And I know Pete talked about outtasking and outsourcing. Now, outtasking for me is that idea you go through those third-party services and you'll be going through your V-workers and ELANs and those types of things. They're the one-off tasks. And for me, it's all about testing the water and you're trying to find people to join your team. Then there's outsourcing, where for me it's more, when I think outsourcing, I think about getting a company on board or someone who is contracting themselves out to lots of people. So an example of that might be Need an Article. I might be using Need an Article to get my articles written. They're an outsourcing company that I deal with, and they work with a whole lot of other people. So that for me is more what outsourcing is, and I use that for reoccurring tasks. And basically, sometimes it's also getting people ready to sit on my virtual bench. And what the virtual bench is, I'm building up these players that are sitting ready, waiting, good workers to jump on board and join my team. And then there's insourcing, and I think this is where a lot of people, it's a definitional thing, and I think a lot of people get mixed up outsourcing versus insourcing. And what I'm going to talk through now is about insourcing, which is all about hiring staff, finding really good staff, and then bringing them onto your payroll. And the reason it's insourcing is they're now part of your team. You're not necessarily outsourcing. You're bringing them on board to be part of what it is that you're doing. And for me, when I do insourcing, it's all about building that team as opposed to relying on these outside companies. So I'm going to talk about insourcing. Firstly, when bringing people onto your team, you want to make sure that you focus on getting A players. And what I'm talking about A players is people who, you've all had the experience if you've been working with, in any industry, you'll see some people that are just stars. Some people, when you give them a task, it just gets done. You don't have to think about it. They do it to as high a level as you do it, if not better. For me, that's an A player. Someone who's a little bit of a thinker, someone who can put in their own inputs and make sure that you get a very high result. Versus a B player is one of those people who just sort of tries to skate by. They'll do the bare minimum. They'll just try and fly under the radar. You want to make sure when we take you through this process that I'm going to teach you about how I hire people for my team, you want to make sure what we're looking to do is identify those A players and then bring them into your team. Because the difference between an A player and a B player is immense. It'll mean your business might be an average success, whereas if you've got A players, it could be a huge success. There's a guy, for those of you who have read a book called Top Grading. It's an excellent book all about hiring staff and bringing staff into your team. And it's written by a guy called Brad Smart. And he did an analysis of hiring different staff and what it costs if you hire the wrong staff member. If you go ahead and hire the wrong staff member, he says it costs you 6 times their salary over the life of that particular person working with you as money lost because you hired the wrong person. So hiring the wrong person will cost you 6 times as much as their annual salary would cost. Let's say they're making 30 grand, multiply that out by 6. That's how much hiring an A player versus hiring a B player would be worth, that difference. So what we need to do is make sure that we're hiring only A players. The reason he said it was 6 times as much is because he calculated a whole lot of things in place like opportunity cost. What's the difference between hiring an A player versus hiring a B player? An A player would have got a whole lot more productivity. It would have taken less time to train them. There's all the training time that goes into building a staff member up. That's why it's really key for me when I bring someone on board. I want to make sure I've got someone on board who is the A player, because they just take so much less work to get them to a point where you need to get them to be. So what I like to do when I'm hiring is I'll make sure that I hire really slowly, and that's the process I'll take you through now.